All right.
We're on Tzadik Hey Amid Aleph. Ma ben Pesach Harishon L'Sheni. What's the difference in halacha between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni? Harishon Aser B'Vayirah B'Yamatzeh. Of course, when you shech the korban Pesach, you can't have any chametz around. Hasheni chametz u'matzeh imo b'bayis. Pesach Sheni, there's no chiyuv to get rid of chametz. You can have chametz and matzah in your home when you eat the korban, when you eat the Pesach Sheni. Harishon ton halal b'chilasav. Hasheni eno ton halal b'chilasav. At night, when they sat down to eat the korban Pesach, they said Hallel. With Pesach Sheni, you do not say Hallel when you eat the korban Pesach. However, Zev ton Hallel b'siyosem. When you shecht the korban Pesach on Pesach Sheni and on Pesach Rishon, you do say Hallel in the Beis HaMikdash. Now, what else do you do in common? Nechol and Sli. You have to roast both of them, and al matzah umrorim. Pesach Sheni is also eaten with matzah and moror. And doichin is a Shabbos. If Pesach Sheni lands on Shabbos, it's doich Shabbos. On Rabbanon, it says kol chukasa Pesach yasu oso. The same way you do Pesach Rishon, that's how you have to do Pesach Sheni. That's b'mitzvah shebegufo akosu medaber. That's mitzvahs that are nogeh to the goof of the korban Pesach. That you have to do exactly like you did Pesach Rishon. What about mitzvahs sha'al gufo minai? What about things that are not part of the processing of the korban Pesach? For example, eating it with matzah has nothing to do with processing the goof of the korban. Maybe it has to do with mitzvahs that have nothing to do with the korban Pesach. For example, you have to destroy chametz. There's a law of you can't break the bone of the korban Pesach, whether it's Rishon or Sheni. But that's a mitzvah tied to the goof of the korban. I've called mitzvah shebegufo, but for example, beer chametz, that's not connected to the goof of the korban, therefore it's not part of Pesach Sheni. Isi ben Yedoimer, yasu oso, you shall do it. The mitzvah shebegufo akosu medaber. We're talking about only the mitzvahs that are the goof of the korban and not others. Amar Mar, yachol af mitzvah shelo al gufo. I might think you have to do mitzvahs, for example, beer chametz. Why would I have Ahmed but mitzvah shebegufa kosu medaber? You already started off by saying we're only talking about mitzvah shebegufa. So what says hachi kamer? This you have to understand the Mishnah. Hashta da Amrit. Now that you said al matzah sumorim yochlu, which has nothing to do with the goof of the korban. Eating it with matzah more has nothing to do with how you process the korban. Alma yasu oso lav davkuhu. So you see, it's not necessarily related to oso. And ema havalei kifratu chlal. I might have thought that the way this halacha is learned is in the format of a pratu klal, because it says al matzah sumorim yochlu, right? V'lo yashim meno aboker, and then you said kachol chukas pesach yasu oso. So you have a prat and then you have a klal. You have actually a multiple prat. And maybe nasa klal moisef ala prat. And so when you have a klal uprat, the klal is moisif, vafilu kol milinami. So then that's why I would have had the havamina that even mitzvah shalo al gufo, like beer chametz, was entertained. Kamash Malan, that we reject that. Now Isi ben Yehuda doesn't need etzem lo yishruvo, because he says yasu oso. So what does he do with the pasuk of etzem lo yishruvo ma avidle? The boy le echad etzem sheish b'mo for echad etzem sheish b'mo. He learns that halacha of breaking the bone of a korban Pesach applies to every bone in the korban Pesach, whether it has marrow in it or it doesn't. Meaning, what's the purpose of breaking a bone? Because you want to get to the marrow. Well, if it doesn't have marrow, maybe there wouldn't be halacha of you're not allowed to break the bone. So Yisrael Ben Yehuda says applies to both. Now the Rabbanan don't have to use Ya'asu Oso What do they do with Mayasu also Mayabdil? Boile, She'ain Shoichtin as a Pesach ala Yochid, that technically it's not an Isser Gomer to Shecht on a Yachid. We're talking about Pesach Sheni. It's still more Mahudrdik because Berov Am Hadras Melech to Shech, to try to get as many people as you can. Because the word Yasu is plural. Tanarabon. K'chol chasa Pesach Yasu also. Yachol k'shem sharishon also b'vayirav v'yamotze. Just so, if you're telling me you have to apply the dinim of Pesach Rishon to Pesach Sheni, then maybe just like in Pesach Rishon you can't have chametz v'yirav v'yamotze. Kach Sheni also v'yirav v'yamotze. Maybe you have to get rid of chametz then too. Talmud Loimar al matzois umrorim yochluhu. Only that mitzvah it goes along with Pesach Sheni, but other mitzvahs don't. Ainly on the mitzvah saseh. So I might think only mitzvah saseh come along, like matzah umrorim. What about mitzvahs lo saseh, like etzem lo yishruvo and lo yashir mimenu ad boker? Don't leave till the morning. Lo yashir mimenu ad boker, which is a lav. Now, lo yashir mimenu ad boker is a special kind of lav. It's a lav shenitik laseh. For example, it says lo sigzol. Don't steal. That's a classic lav. Shenitik laseh, you don't get malchus for gzela. Why? Because there's a din of veheshiv is a gzela. There's an assay to return what you stole. Here as well, it says lo yashir mimenu ad boker. V'anoiser v'ba'ish tisrofu. If you did leave over, there's an assay of burning it. So I might have thought, what kind of lav applies to Pesach Sheni? Only mitzvahs lo saseh shenitik laseh. Mitzvahs lo saseh gomer minayin. For example, the lav of etzem lo yishruvo. That's not a lav shenitik laseh. That's a regular lav, which gives you malchus. Well, it doesn't give you malchus. Yeah, it gives you malchus if you break it. It's active. It's not passive. So Talmud Loimer ve'etzem lo yishruvo. Ma prat mefurish. Mitzvah saseh, v'lo taseh shenitik laseh, v'lo taseh gomer. The pasuk clearly described, number one, a mitzvah saseh, which is matzos umrom yachlu. It described a lo taseh shenitik laseh, which was lo sashir menu aboker, and it gave me a lo saseh gomer, which is etzem le'ish ruvo. Av kol mitzvah saseh, v'lo taseh shenitik laseh, v'lo taseh gomer. Maybe we should do. That's the Baraisa. So, Bichlali the Matzah Sumrei my Kamar be. What other mitzvah was learned? Because you said you're being marbe other mitzvahs saseh from when it said Matzah Sumrei Yachlu. Well, what mitzvah are you marbe? Our answer is Tzliesh. That Pesach Sheni has to be roasted. And beprote my ma'amete, my kamamaitle, what detail has been excluded from Pesach Sheni? Hashbasha Seor. You don't have to destroy chametz. More says Epochana. Maybe I should reverse this. Maybe mitzvah de gufe od. So reverse it and say I will reject sliesh and I will practice Hashbasha Seor. The more says no. I would rather have something that pertains to the goof of the korban, which is how you roast it, sliesh, rather than destroying chametz, so it has nothing to do with the goof of the korban. Then we were told that just like like it says, don't leave over any of the meat till the morning, we were marbe another lav shenitik laseh my kamarbele. Lo sotzi mimenu. You shall not, eat. You can't take out Korban Pesach from the chavur that you're eating it with. The domile, which is in fact similar to the lav itself, the I mifsel b'noiser, I mifsel b'yotzei, right? Noiser and yotzei are similar psulim by hegdish. So that makes sense that it was marbe. And then beprote maikam amoitle, what mitzvah was rejected from Pesach Sheni? The mitzvah of lo yerov, lo yematzeh, the domile. The mitzvah of don't see chametz. The hayin aloke, the have a lav shenetik laseh. It's also a lav shenetik laseh, and it's similar to the lav of lo yashim yenu ad boker. The hayin aloke, the have a lav shenetik laseh. Whereas April Chana, so mitzvah the gufei adif. Again, we say leaving over noser and being nifsal b'yotzei is something that affects the goof of the korban, as opposed to the lav of lo yerav lo yematzeh, which has nothing to do with that. It's something side issue of the korban. Then bechlali de'etzem lo yishruvo, there's a mitzvah of don't break the bone. And then we learn that comes to teach me there's another mitzvah for Pesach Sheni. My kamarbe, al tachlu mimenu no. You should not eat from the Pesach raw. If you do, you're chayiv on Pesach Sheni. And beprote makam amoyt lo sishcha chametz dam zivchi. Don't shech the korban Pesach when you have chametz. So epechana. So again, mitzvah the gufei adif. Chametz has nothing to do with the goof of the carbon. Then it says, Arishon ton halal b'achilaso. Pesach Rishon, we say halal when we eat the korban Pesach. We don't by Pesach Sheni. Omar Kra, Hashir Yelachem Kalel is Kadesh Chag. This shear of halal will be the night when there's a yontif. Laila Mekudesh L'chag, ton halal. The Laila of Pesach, there's Isser Melacha, it's a chag. Laila shein mekudesh l'chag, the night of Pesach Sheni, where it's not yontif, ain't ton halal, doesn't require halal. However, that's when you eat it. However, the Mishnah said, zev zetun and halal basiyosel. When you shech the Pesach Rishon, Pesach Sheni, then everyone holds you say halal. My time, huh? Iboy say Laila kamamoed, yom lo kamamoed. Normally, Laila is not as man halal. So I understand we excluded the night, but the daytime, which is when the shechita of the korban Pesach Sheni is done, it's not excluded. D-boy same, if you want, I'll tell you, after Yisrael shechtim v'zchev v'dot v'lev v'erim halal. How can Klal Yisrael shech the korban Pesach and not say halal? It's a dvar mitzvah, it's ton halal. Then the Mishnah says that nechol and sleep. Both Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni are eaten roasted. And it says it's doicha Shabbos. So when it says Shabbos in...
Ernie, excuse me. Why is the Gemara here saying that, well, of course, Pesach requires halal, Lulav requires halal. There's a zillion other mitzvahs they don't require. Kibbud Avim doesn't require halal. There's a zillion mitzvahs that giving tzedakah doesn't require halal. I don't even know why we would say that these mitzvahs require halal.
And so, Enochanami, the Sfas Emes asks your question. We should, first of all, we should say halal then every night. It doesn't really ask what you say. Right. Why shouldn't we say halal Pesach Sheni? It's a mitzvah. It's only beyond. I was thinking the same thing that what you said. I thought about the same question. Why dafka Shchitas Pesach and Lulav?
Amen.
I mean, Rashi says the kivan to dvar mitzvah hu ton halal. So how come we don't say halal when we make a milah? Well, there you could say because there's a tsar of the child. So you have a mitzvah sphere saomer. Your question's right. We blow shofar. So there they say we don't say halal because it's be'ema of the yira. Remember, Shavuos doesn't have a mitzvah. So you could give a teretz perhaps that it relates to mitzvah that's connected. Remember, Dalit Koisos is not a mitzvah, is not mitzvah deraisa. So the mitzvah deraisa of Korban Pesach is Shchitas Pesach and eating matzah. Well, we say halal both places. And then the mitzvah of Sukkot is lulav.
There's also dira sukkah, being in a sukkah. We don't say halal. We don't say halal. Do we say halal on Bikurim, Shavuos?
They may have said halal by Bikurim, yeah. We have to look that up.
Okay.
But remember, Bikurim is not lav davka Shavuos. That was when they could start bringing Bikurim. They brought Bikurim from Shavuos till Sukkot. So that could be why not there. Because it's not dafka that yoin. It's a good question. And we have to look into it.
I think halal has to do with the klal. Say halal when you have something which happened to. So
that's why you're saying by sukkah, no. But you could shake your lulav off. You could shake.
So then by hakel, do we say halal?
I think so.
I don't know. I don't know if that's so.
What do you mean? I think by hakel.
Hakel was done in Chol HaMoed. Here it seems to be connected to the yontif. It's not just connected to performance.
Yeah, but it's a yontif that happened to the club.
I mean, Oli Regel is a reason for halal. Oli Regel. Each one of the three holidays, Oli Regel. That's what you have halal for those parts. That's why Shavuos is Oli Regel.
I understand, but the Gemara only listed Shchitas Pesach and shaking of the lulav. So we're thinking of reasons why we exclude the other ones. Shavuos has no mitzvah. Yeah, there's a mitzvah of Aliyah L'Regel. That's a general mitzvah that shares with all the Yomim Tovim. Rosh Hashanah has Tkir Shofar. But again, there may be reasons why we don't say halal there because of the aim of the year of Rosh Hashanah. Anyways, we have to look. We have to find answers. It's a good question. Okay, then it says Shabbos in, Tumah lo. So we know that if Klal Yisrael, majority of Klal Yisrael is Tameh, so you still bring the Korban Pesach, but that's only Pesach Rishon, not Pesach Sheni. But if the day of Pesach Rishon, day of Pesach Sheni falls on Shabbos, then it is Doicha Shabbos. Masnisin de like Rabbi Yehuda. Our mission is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Tanya, Doichas Shabbos, ve'ein Doichas Tumah. Like our mission. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Av Doichas Tumah. Rabbi Yehuda says Pesach Sheni is also, if the guy is Tameh, he still does Pesach Sheni. My time Tanakama. So, Mimnei Tumah Dechisiv, Yachzav Yaseh Betumah, understand. Why couldn't he do Pesach Rishon? Because he was Tameh. So now you're going to be Doicha Pesach Sheni? Or do it Betumah? That doesn't make any sense, say the Tanakam. Rabbi Yehuda says, Torah Chazar Lav Lasoisa B'Tahara. But the Torah gave you a second chance to be able to do it with Tahara. Lo Zacha Yasa B'Tumah. He didn't merit doing it B'Tahara, so he does it B'Tumah, so at least he does it. And therefore avoids Kores. The Rambam paskins that Pesach Sheni is not Doicha Tumah. It passes like the Tanakama. Tanabanan. Pesach Rishon Doichas HaShabbos. Pesach Sheni Doichas HaShabbos. Pesach Rishon Doichas HaTumah. Pesach Sheni Doichas HaTumah. Pesach Rishon Ton Lina. It means they had to stay an extra day. They couldn't go home. Pesach Sheni Ton Lina. Pesach Sheni had the same din. Doichas HaTumah Kaman Rabbi Yehuda. Now, when it says Doichas HaTumah, who's that like? Like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda torn Lina, but Rabbi Yehuda requires the families to stay in Yerushalayim after that. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Minay lePesach Sheni Shein torn Lina. Shenemer Fanisa v'Aboker you can go home right away. So it's the din of Lina is only by Pesach Rishon. Hanecha l'shisha, that which you eat matzah for 6 days torn Lina. Shein necha l'shisha ain't torn Lina. So Trei Tanai, it's a machlekes from Rabbi Yehuda, but In the end, we don't paskin like Rabbi Yehuda at all. Mishnah, HaPesach Shabbat B'tumah. Let's say Gans Klal Yisrael was Tameh on Pesach Rishon. So Lo Yochlu Mimenu Zavin Zavois Nidos V'Yodos. It's only Tameh Nefesh. It's only for Tumas Meis that those people are allowed to eat from a Tameh Deka Pesach. But the Zavim, the Zavois, the Nidos V'Yodos, even though Klal Yisrael is Tameh eating the Korban Pesach, they cannot join in. They have to do it in Pesach Sheni. V'yamachlu p'tur mikares, says the Tarakham. Normally, if you're Tameh and you eat Kodshim, you get kares. But in this case, if they ate it, they're potter. Because the whole Korban Pesach was eaten B'tumah, so they're potter as well. But lechatchila they shouldn't eat it.
Let me ask you, if we say God's call Yisrael is Tameh, does this women still are excluded, or no? They also in Tumah Nida they can they can also partake in Pesach Rishon.
No, because this Mishnah says Zavin Zavois Nidos V'Yodos Lo Yochel. Even though it's only
No,
Tumas,
but what happened?
it's only those 51% of Klal Yisrael was Tameh B'Tumas Meis. Then they brought the Korban Pesach in the state.
Oh, I see. Oh,
But the Zavim and the Zavim
so that's only Meis.
did
Oh,
not
right.
eat from it.
Oh,
Now,
okay,
if the Chiddush is though,
Yeah.
if they ate from it, they would be potter from kares.
yeah, okay. Only by Tumas Meis. That's what applies for Klal Yisrael. Yeah.
Rabbi Ezra poiter afal bias migdash. Somebody who is tamei is not allowed to walk into the Azara. If you do, you get kares. But Rabbi Ezra says in a year where they offered the Korban Pesach, the Tumah, and a Zav and a Zava were pushed inside, well, we know that Thomas Mace are allowed to go inside. That's the concept that Thomas is Hutra B'tzibur. But if these people were pushed inside, they would not get chorus for Bias Mikdash either. Somebody is not muted.
Alan. Now he is.
Ton Rabbanon Zavin Zavis Nidas V'Yodos She'achlu BePesach Sheba B'Tumah. These other Tamei individuals who ate from a Korban Pesach in a year that it was brought in the state of Tumah. Yachal you chayav, and I might think they'd be chayav kares. Talmud Lomer called Torah yochal basar. It's only Torah people should eat basar. But a person who eats from the meat of a zevach while there's tumah on him, v'nichrasa. But there's a connection here. Nechal tahoirim. If tahoirim are eating the korban, then somebody who's tamei who eats that korban chayav lo mishum tamei. However, she'eno nechal tahoirim, but a korban that's not being eaten by tahoirim, like a korban pesach that's being eaten, that is being eaten by tamei people. When 51% of Klal Yisrael are in a state of tumah, then ain't tmei chayav lo mishum tamei. Then tumadika people, if they eat it, are not chayav kares. Let's say this is a year that everyone is tummy, and they're eating the korban pesach in the state of tumah, and a zav is pushed inside the azara. Yachol you chayavin. I might think he's chayav. You should send away from machne shchina and Levia, and technically the whole machne called tzaruah v'chol zav v'chol tamei lanef. Now the tzaruah gets kicked out of the whole machne. The zav out of machne Levia, the tamei lanefesh out of the machne. Yeah, is manshut mei meisi mishtalchin. So when tumas meis people are kicked out of the azara, then in chanami zav and tzaruah mishtalchin, you have to kick the other ones out. Now, in a state when they're offering the korban pesach betuma, a tamei meis goes into the azara. So ain't Tmei Mesim Mishtalchim in year where the Tomei Mesim is not pushed out. In Zavim Mitzvah Mishtalchim, they're not. The issue of Mishtalchim means they'd be Chayiv Kores otherwise through Bias Migdash. So if they walk into the Azara, they're not Chayiv Kores. They shouldn't do it lechatchila, but if it happens, they would be put. And now comes an interesting shaila. Boy, Rav Yosef. Remember, there's Ezras Yisrael, 11 Amos, and then 11 Amos of Ezras Kohanim, and then you have actually the Heichal. Kohanim can go into that. Now, the Tomei Mesim could be in the Azara. But what if now they went into a place where normally you don't go, like where the Kohanim are in the Heichal? In a year where the Tomei Mesim are coming into the Azara at least. Do we say Midi Ishtri Tumas Azara, Ishtri Nami Tumas Heichal? Listen, once they can come into Tumas Azara, they can go into the Heichal as well. Oy Dilma. No, my Di Ishtri, Ishtri, my Lo Ishtri, Lo Ishtri. What they're permitted, they're permitted. What they're not permitted, they're not permitted. Omer Rafa, Omer Krav, Yishalchum in Amachane. Afilu Miktas Amachane. It means there will be a Shiluach from part of the Machane. That means even though they can go into the Ezra Yisrael, they cannot go into the Heichal. Even though they're mutter there, they're not mutter to go where they're not permitted to go. They're not permitted Bekulo, because it's Miktsasa. That's the first shot in Rafa. Ika de Amri, Amar Rava, Amar Krav, Yishalchum in Amachane, El Michutz Amachane Tishalchum. Only for those people you have to kick out of the whole machane, Karinim Bevi Shalchun Machane. B'shleimus, if they're not kicked out of the whole machane, and here they're not kicked out, they're allowed to go into the Es Yisrael, there's no Isser on any of it. And in fact, the Rambam Paskins, on this interesting halacha, Pesach Shabbat B'Tuma, V'Dachku Tmei Mesim V'Nichnasu L'Heichal P'Turim, like Rava's second pshat. There's another halacha in the Rambam, Pesach Shemakriv Naso B'Tuma, Eino Mutter L'Chatchila L'Tmei Mesim. Only Tmei Mesim can go. Ushar Shenitmu B'Maga, the other ones like Zav and the other, they're not. Ulam Eila Shetumasam Yotzis Alei Migufa. Like Zav Mitzrayim, they can't eat from it. But if they ate from it, they're potter. And they can't go into the Azara. Right, only Rabbi Eliezer pottered al bias migdash, but the Tanakama did not potter. So we hold that they would be chayav kores if a Zav or Zava went, just because there's not vishtachim. We don't learn like we don't paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. A very interesting halacha tonight. Okay, so
Ernie,
yes, sir. Yes.
can we also do Thursday at